Hi, I'm Andrew Kirsh, co-founder of Sklar Kirsh. On this podcast, I interview industry leaders. You'll hear their real-time opinions on today's market, their background, unique career highlights, and guidance for newcomers to the industry. This is the Kirsh Connection. Welcome to another edition of the Kirsh Connection. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're not going to be able to see my beautiful face with my eye being completely black and blue. It is not because Courtney decked me with her 3-carat diamond ring. It is because I've had a sty off and on for really a good part of a year, to the point where I couldn't even see anymore. So I had the lovely experience of a needle and an injection of steroids into my eyelid. So if you see me over the next couple days, don't be frightened. They say it'll go away. On this week's episode, I have David Alpert, the co-founder and CEO of Skybound Entertainment. David and his colleagues and co-founders created a little-known show called The Walking Dead, which I'm sure many of you have watched. It is the most watched television show in basic cable television history. He's also the creator of an animated show on Amazon Prime called Invincible. They're in their 4th season. And beyond just talking about the entertainment industry and, of course, The Walking Dead, we talk about how the entertainment industry, the headwinds that the entertainment industry is experiencing, and its impact on the real estate business in Southern California. So whether you're in the real estate business, or you're a fan of The Walking Dead, or you just want to learn more about Skybound Entertainment, I'm sure you're going to enjoy my conversation with David Alpert. Welcome to another edition of the Kirsh Connection. I'm here with my good friend, David Alpert, CEO and co-founder of Skybound. David, thanks for coming in to the Kirsh Connection.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm a longtime listener, first-time guest, so this is very exciting for me.
I love it. You're not in the real estate business, or maybe tangentially you invest in real estate. You're an executive in the entertainment industry. I wanted to have you on, A, because you're one of our only listeners and you always comment and react to the show. But B, we've had real estate executives in the entertainment space, Victor Coleman, and we were talking before we started shooting, anyone that owns apartments in LA, anyone that's owning office or retail in LA is really subject to the entertainment industry of how it's going. And so I want to get into that. But before we talk about the entertainment industry as a whole, let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend. David, where'd you grow up?
I was born in New York City, and I grew up in Long Island.
Okay. And so what brought you out here to LA?
So when I graduated college, I had gotten a job in entertainment. I'd always wanted to be a TV executive. And I ran the television station during college. And there was don't know if you remember, there was a network called UPN.
Of course.
So I got hired.
I watched old Star Trek shows on UPN as a Trekkie.
So UPN was an unholy alliance between Chris Kraft and Paramount. Mm-hmm. And Chris Kraft had these owned and operated stations that allowed it to make up the network. I got hired at UPN through Chris Kraft. And by the time I graduated, UPN, Chris Kraft had sold their shares to Viacom. So my division was eliminated before I even started. And that was actually my welcome to Hollywood moment. No one here cares about you. And it was actually the best lesson I ever learned. So that was my first chance to come to LA. Didn't happen. So I went to law school. Big mistake. Don't do it.
Clearly.
And it was a great experience. I learned a lot. And then when I graduated law school, I'd started an internet company during law school, built that, sold that, and then came back to Los Angeles to start my entertainment career.
Wow. And so just give our audience just some timing perspective. What time period is this?
I moved out here in 2001. So I've been here now 25 years. So I've lived in Los Angeles more than anywhere else. So this is now home.
All right, we'll give you, local status, local-ish status.
I feel like you get local status faster in Los Angeles than New York. New York, it's like if you weren't born and raised there, like I no longer count as a local in New York. They're like, you've been away too long.
Ah, I see. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time in LA.
No, appreciate it.
So, all right, 2001. So, what was the first foray into the business after UPN?
So I had this. So I never actually worked at UPN. I was fired before I started.
Okay, fair enough.
But the idea was I had this thesis that I came to Los Angeles with, which was that comics, video games, TV, and film were much more intertwined than people thought. Today it's very obvious and that's sort of like self-evident. But back then it was kind of like a radical idea. Like you have to remember, this was right after Sony had an opportunity after buying the Spider-Man rights. They could have bought the rest of Marvel for another $15 million. And they said, why would we waste good money after bad? And they passed on buying all of Marvel for $15 million.
Incredible.
Most recently, Marvel's valued at $54 billion. So you see how that is.
I hope someone got fired because of that decision.
I don't know. I don't know that ever actually happened. But because I think it took too long to sort of manifest. But that was at that time, the notion that comics or video games could be useful for film or TV or vice versa just wasn't something that was in the pop culture or in the zeitgeist. But my idea was really to come here with that in mind. And what's funny is when I got out here, I met two people within 2 to 3 months of being in Los Angeles. One was in the comic book business, Robert Kirkman, and one was in the video game business, John Goldman. And they've been my partners basically ever since. So I've worked with the same group of people for the last 25 years.
Wow. And did they have that same theory and philosophy as to entertainment and the combination of comic books and video games as you shared?
I think I was the one that sort of like laid it out, but they all sort of agreed. We all felt that streaming video was coming. We just didn't know when or exactly how.
In early 2000s, you were feeling that.
Oh, for sure. In my internet company in the 90s, we would ask our business development executives when we were interviewing them, we would say, hey, you're Blockbuster, Netflix is here, streaming is coming, what do you do? And that was our case study that we'd give to people. So we knew that very, very early that the intent was, whether it was Netflix or somebody else, that streaming video was going to be the dominant way of consumption.
So going back to that comic book theory, and I mean, during when I was in high school, or when we were in high school, or maybe I think it was high school, Batman came out, and that was like a seminal movie in the entertainment industry, and I just thought that movie was larger than life.
Yeah.
And before that, when we were really young, I would say maybe when we were 5 or 6 years old, you had Superman.
Sure.
So there were some beginnings of taking a comic book character, right? I assume Superman and Batman had a big comic book follower. Weren't those comic book heroes?
But that was kind of it. Like you would imagine if you have Superman was a massive franchise,
Yep.
Batman was a massive franchise. But you saw the first one was great, and then they had a couple of those misses, and they did some other things that missed. But I think it was clear that people that grew up watching Star Wars, not based on a comic, an original story,
Right.
but you watch Star Wars, like stories from comics were going to be appealing to you. You saw the rise of science fiction. You saw the rise of fantasy as not just a subgenre, but genres in themselves that people were taking seriously. And the idea, as special effects evolved, right, the idea that you could spend time in fantastical worlds became much more of a reality. So it used to be that you would have a movie if it had 100 special effects shot. That was a massive, big budget thing. And then a movie comes out like Hotel Rwanda and has 1,000 special effects shots in it. And it becomes part of the lexicon of the way people are sort of consuming media. So as I saw that, I said, oh, what's being done in video games is this computer-generated graphics. So there's a technological intersection between film, TV, and video games. And comics is sort of really that area where a lot of these stories are being explored. So I felt like there was this opportunity there. Robert quickly saw that, as did John. And the idea was then, how do we sort of pivot and take advantage of it?
You know who's a big comic book reader?
No.
Shohei Ohtani.
Is he really?
Apparently on flights, he does 2 things. Reads comic books and sleeps.
My guess is he's probably a manga guy.
We can ask him.
That would be my guess.
Maybe he'll come on to the Kirsh Connection.
I can't wait.
Yes. So what was your favorite comic books growing up as a kid?
I grew up reading, I was very much a Marvel guy growing up, but I also read a lot of the indie comics back then. There was things like Elementals. I loved the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A lot of these types of books really sort of spoke to me. But I basically read it all, and I actually started selling comics in high school. And so by the time I graduated from high school, I was selling 6,000 comics a month.
Wow, amazing. Entrepreneurial in your early years. All right, so when did you create Skybound?
So my business partner, Robert, I met him, he was publishing comics, and he called me one day and said, hey, look, I have this idea for a zombie book. And I was like, oh man, zombie books, like they're just so hard, like they're just not gonna work. He goes, no, I think this is different. And I go, what do you mean? Like, how's it different? He goes, well, this story takes place after a zombie movie ends. I go, tell me more. And he says, every zombie movie ends in one of two ways. Either everybody dies, or a couple people get away, but now they are left in a world where there's zombies. So what happens to them the next day? Like, what happens when you've seen the dead come back to life and eat your friends and relatives? Like, how do you react to that? And I was like, oh, okay, that's a really cool setting for a story. I don't think we've ever seen that. And he says, and I'm going to start it though, I'm going to come at it from the side. I'm going to start it with a love triangle. So a guy's going to wake up in the hospital in a coma, comes out, and he wants to get together with his wife and his son. And when he finds her, he's going to find out she's taken up with his best friend. And then later we're going to learn she's pregnant. And the question is, whose baby? I was like, oh, that's really fascinating. And all this is going to be heightened by the fact that it's against the zombie apocalypse. And that became The Walking Dead. So that book came out, was instantly successful. And most comics, they sort of sell and sort of decline. It's like a melting ice cube model. This had that beautiful sales curve that every entrepreneur wants to see, that, up and to the right, that hockey stick type growth where every issue sold more than the last. And it really became a cultural phenomenon inside comics. So Hollywood started calling, wanting to do films or TV shows based on it. And we said, hey, great, this is an opportunity for us to build that model that we've been talking about, where we can actually combine the comic book and the TV show and video games all together. But most people at that time, so this was 2003, the book came out, the standard model in Hollywood is that, great, we'll take everything, we'll give you a check, we'll take everything, and then we'll account to you in a very Hollywood style, give you some accounting out of the back. We said, no, that's not how we're going to do it. And we're going to retain those rights, we're going to commercialize those rights, and we're going to build businesses around that. And everyone goes, no, that's not how Hollywood works. We said, great, that's how we work. And you let us know when you're ready. And people are like, you're crazy. I literally got told you'll never eat lunch in this town again. Don't worry, I'm healthy, I'm well fed. But it took 6 years.
We're going to have lunch after this podcast, so I will prove those people wrong.
I appreciate that. So we it took 6 years, and finally,
at a point during the 6 years, did you think, okay, we're the ones that are wrong, and we're going to have to just succumb to how the industry standard is?
No, because there's a couple things that were going on. Was one, the book kept selling, so it kept doing better and better. So Robert was becoming more and more successful as a result of that, and so we felt like our leverage of anything was increasing, right? And we saw, starting 2003, it was really still the network television era. We had yet to really enter that sort of golden age of having not just premium, but basic cable as sort of a place for premium storytelling. And so as the marketplace was expanding, it was a great time to have an available piece of property that was so successful. So people kept making offers, and it kept getting closer to what we wanted. We said, look, that's great. Here's our term sheet. If you do this, we'll have a deal. If you don't, we won't. And at the end, what's funny is after 6 years of everybody telling us we're crazy and no, we had 4 places all saying that they would do what we had wanted to do. There's a lesson in there somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's a number of lessons in there.
No, look, I've had guests on, you say you listen to every podcast.
I do.
And so, well, actually, we're releasing this this reference to the podcast that's going to drop this coming week. But a client of mine said he had to take 100 meetings before someone would say yes in providing equity on a particular deal that turned out to be, a home run. And so it's just stick-to-itiveness,
Yep.
right? Of you believing in what you have and not succumbing. Now, easier said than done. Some people just don't have the financial maybe capability or wherewithal to be able to do that. And so the model that you created for The Walking Dead, would you say that is now the norm of how business gets generated? And
that was the basis of what we built Skybound on. We closed that deal in 2009 and started the TV show in 2010 and launched Skybound in 2010. So we had everything from, it was, that classic entrepreneurial thing where I started a new business, I bought a new house, my wife was pregnant, all within and launching a new show, all within 4 or 5 months of each other. So it was like, hey, if you're going to do it, go all the way in. It was either going to be the best year or a terrible year. It turned out to be a great year. And so that was sort of what we built on. And the way that Hollywood generally works is you establish legal precedent at different partners. And once you have that precedent, you usually sort of work from that for your subsequent deals. So we've now established that this is sort of how we work and how we work with our partners. So it's not the way the industry works, but it's the way that if they do something with Skybound, that we're able to work off of that.
And so The Walking Dead, talk about the number of seasons and how it is so much more than a TV show today. So
one, it's the comic book itself went on to become the number one independent comic of all time, right? The TV show became the number one basic cable show of all time. It was the number one show in 168 countries around the world. As of 2025, it was it's only the most recent data I have. We were top 3 drama shows on all of Netflix globally, and we were the number one serialized show on Netflix globally. So even still, a show that we made 15, 16 years ago still has that type of resonance because new audiences are discovering it now. So just a massive global hit for us. Nothing that we foresaw, but the impact was huge. So much so that we were talking before about having been a Knicks fan. Season 6, we had our premiere at Madison Square Garden, and we had 20,000 screaming fans there for our premiere. I got to speak on stage in front of those fans. It was kind of an absolutely insane moment.
You should have Patrick Ewing come out, or some Knick legends.
Yeah, or John Starks. There
we go.
There we go. I always felt more like Starks than Patrick Ewing.
Yeah,
like the bag boy.
You're not 7 feet tall.
I'm definitely not 7 feet tall.
You're 6'11".
It depends on my shoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the success of the show allowed us to do tremendous things. So we started with soft goods and merchandising, and then we quickly moved into video games. And the first game that we released was called Telltale's The Walking Dead. Ended up winning 100 Game of the Year awards, did over $1 billion at retail. It was a massive, massive hit for us. And so we've now done a series of games, series of licenses. We've done everything from, we sold out cruises. I made samurai swords, baby onesies, guitars, bourbon, wine. If you name it, we were able to do it.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What is analogous to that type of success across all those different platforms and revenue streams?
Really, the couple of things that we look at, it's like Harry Potter, Marvel, and Star Wars, right? Those are really the things that sort of have done something similar. The difference for us is that we're actually mature, right, in terms of our content. We were not sort of a kids-oriented show. So we were, I think, if not the first, one of the first to really bridge all those different areas, but for an adult perspective.
So Star Wars has rides. So does Harry Potter.
Yep.
Will Walking Dead be in an amusement park?
We've had activations in amusement parks at Universal. We also did. We would take over Major League Baseball stadiums and run a interactive obstacle course where it was one price to be sort of a survivor who was sort of running from zombies. It was another price to be the zombies chasing the people. So we've done that. We've done escape rooms. So we've had live activations, virtual activations, VR activations. You name it, we've done it.
So when you launch Skybound with this unbelievable hit, how do you say, okay, what's next? How do you duplicate that and say we can do something I don't know if you could ever get to that same scale, but to what is next?
Well, one of the choices we made right at the beginning was, are we going to be the Walking Dead company?
Right.
Or not? And we said, no, we want to use The Walking Dead, to build out a platform and have that platform be something that we can do for other titles that Robert creates, but also for other creators to come onto the platform and use what we've built to take advantage of all those precedents we've talked about, take advantage of all those relationships we've built. So at this point, we have hundreds of IPs that we own and operate. Most recently, our biggest success has been Invincible, which is just now finished season 4 on Amazon. We were the #1 show on Prime Video around the world. We were the highest revenue generating show on all of Prime Video, even though we're one of the least expensive. Most people probably don't know it, but it's an animated, very violent superhero show, hour long. It's really, really great. And we've just launched out of that. We've done about 150 licenses around the world, and we've just launched our first massive video game based off of the property.
And your partner came up with, or you collectively came up with it, or how did you come up with it?
Yeah, it was another comic. It was a comic he created at the same time. He created The Walking Dead. So the comic came out originally in 2003.
So why such a long gestation period? Can you say gestation period for a comic book? I don't know.
Yeah, you can say that. Right. So it's funny. We originally had actually set it up as a movie back in the day at Paramount, and we sold it. It was a big bidding war. We went in for our first meeting, and they said, "Listen, we've done our research, and I'll never forget this." They're like, "Come in. I'm so excited. We have this big bidding war. We're going to make Invincible the movie," and we go sit down, and they come back. Our research says audiences will only have one superhero in a movie. They can't have two. Now, the thing about Invincible, if you haven't seen it, is it has hundreds, if not thousands, of superheroes. It's a universe filled with superheroes and supervillains and all these different things. And we're like, what do you mean? They're like, you have to take all those other characters, you have to take them out. So that's basically like saying, hey, you can do X-Men, but it's X-Man. There's nobody else.
And Avengers.
You have an Avenger.
You have an Avenger.
Right.
All right, that person should also be fired.
I mean,
along with the Sony executive,
and their research should also be.
Yeah.
But their research was wrong. But that was where, again, that's where the mindset was 20 years ago. And that was before Iron Man came out. That was before the Avengers movies had come out. So you had to be willing to take risk before, having seen it work in the media before.
And so, when you mentioned something about how this is Amazon Prime's most revenue show, or most revenues derived from this show. How do you know that when it's a subscription model?
So the thing that's interesting about Invincible, so one, most of the platforms share no data with you, or very limited data. So what you have to do is you work with companies like, whether it's Nielsen, Parrot Analytics, Luminate. There's a whole series of these that are used. And you basically sort of get a series of these studies that are done, and you look at them and you sort of see. So uncommissioned by us, Parrot Analytics released that data that we are the highest revenue generating show on the platform. We ran it by Amazon. They didn't deny it, which is what they normally do if it's wrong, but they won't acknowledge it. So that's how we know. But in general, the biggest thing that we find when we've done studies on our consumers and our fans is they come to Amazon to watch the show, they subscribe to Prime during that window, and then they cancel their subscriptions after. So they call them parachute viewers, right? So they come in for the show, and they can also track where you originate from, and they also attribute your revenue based off of what you do from the first click, right? So let's say you were to subscribe and then you were to buy a bag, that bag would be get the highest level of attribution. But most of these people, they're saying they're coming, they're clicking, they're watching Invincible, then they're unsubscribing and leaving. So that sort of churn shows that the attribution is highest for us and that particular consumer.
And so when you are pitching Invincible to Amazon, I'm sure you pitched it to the other streamers as well?
So we had, it was an interesting story. There's a service called Twitch. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's started as a live streaming service that Amazon ended up buying. We've known the founders for a long time. They're big in gaming. And so we were talking to them, and they said to us that they wanted Invincible to be the first Twitch original. We had just signed a deal at Amazon. So we said, oh, like, great. Like, you guys are part of Amazon. Let's bring them together. But those two divisions of the company didn't know each other. So we actually did it. And the Prime Video team was like, no, you're with us. You can't do it with Twitch. So we'll do the show here. So it actually came in a very backdoor oriented way, not the normal pitching process.
Mm-hmm. How much impact, if any, has the fact that Amazon has gone way into sports? It broadcasted the NBA playoffs or certain series, and can you attribute a success to Invincible because there are more people watching Amazon because of the NBA playoffs who may not have even been exposed to Invincible before?
No, I don't think so. The benefit for us of having sports on Amazon is they've actually integrated. So we had some playoff integrations during the playoffs. So you would see like Invincible promos during NBA playoffs on Prime. And they actually did a couple courtside promotions too. So there's a couple different games where there would be, on the scorers table, there'd be Invincible promotion. So that was useful for us. But we haven't seen a direct spike from basketball or anything along those lines. Mm-hmm. We've seen a very year over year, we've seen seasonal growth, which is actually kind of rare. Most, again, like comics, most times you see slow erosions and you try to hold to a base. We've actually seen season over season growth such that season 4 is almost double what our original season performance was.
Incredible. I do want to get into the entertainment industry as a whole, but sure. I guess last question with respect to Skybound. So what's next for you guys? Yeah,
so we just launched this game, which has been sort of we call our model the Wheel of Awesome, right? Where basically we're allowed to sort of plug a great IP at the center, and then we were able to power that through all the different tools that we have at Skybound. So we had a comic, we have the show, now we have the game, and what was great is the comic, the show, and the game are all using the same resources to sort of make everything work. So it really feels a piece of both the comic and the show. So there's a connectivity and continuity between those things. And now we're in the process of expanding that out. We have a great, devoted, engaged audience in both the show and the game, and we want to sort of continue to build that out. We have a number of new properties that are sort of coming up that we're going to be starting production on. So we want to continue sort of building that out. We think Skybound in and of itself can be a multi-billion-dollar business just off of Walking Dead and Invincible, but we're not content with just 2 franchise IPs. So we have, I would say, 3 or 4 other things that are sort of in that cooker that are in that next up phase, and our goal is to get one of them up into that level the same as sort of Walking Dead and Invincible.
I mean, there's a lot of consolidation happening in the entertainment industry. I see it from afar. The Warner Brothers, Paramount deal. Are there suitors that come knocking on your door from the big, studios?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in business 16 years, and basically every year of our existence, somebody's tried to buy us. So it has not slowed down as consolidation has increased. If anything, I think the value of a standalone asset like Skybound that has such interesting rights makes us more and more attractive. And so we like the position that we're in because we think we have a great opportunity to both raise more, but also to sort of position ourselves as really like a really unique asset for people to fight over.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the entertainment industry as a whole. Let's get in, because now my real estate listeners are like, okay, Kirsh, how does this relate to me?
Let's get to the real superheroes, the real estate developers.
They are the superheroes. They're the people who are going to save society.
Yes.
The real estate business has been struggling to stagnant over the last 4 years. Each location has its own different story, whether it's the Sun Belt or West Coast or Pacific Northwest, and there are reasons for its uptimes and downtimes. In LA, we were talking about it before we started. The city is not the same city that I grew up in. You've been here 25 years. It's been a struggle from crime and homelessness, poverty, businesses leaving, taxes, everything, right? And the entertainment industry is the industry in Los Angeles. We had Victor Coleman, the CEO, of Hudson Pacific, and he felt that the city, the current administration, hasn't supported the entertainment industry like prior administrations, and one of his thoughts was that since the entertainment industry is so fragmented today, that there wasn't a leader like a Lou Wasserman or, I don't know, an Ovitz or someone who could just say, call up the mayor, call up the governor and say, enough, you need to invest in the entertainment industry. We can't keep sending production out overseas or other parts of the country. So I guess this is a backdrop to say, how do you perceive the entertainment industry locally in LA in terms of jobs and production?
So I actually think Victor's incredibly smart, and I agree with it, but I actually don't think I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. I think there's been a completely criminal underinvestment in entertainment, not just over the last administration, but I would say it's been since I've been in Los Angeles. So going back at least 25 years, what we've seen is, one, it wasn't just local, because it's the state funding that goes towards the production. There's state incentives. The problem is, I think that Northern California and non-Los Angeles, they look at production in Hollywood as sort of like an LA thing, and they're jealous of it. They don't like it. They don't want to support it. So there's that NorCal, SoCal rivalry. So people that are going to Sacramento, they find that there's obstacles to sort of promoting sort of real incentives. There's also the sense of like, oh no, Hollywood is LA. It's never going to leave. And I think that was just wrong. Production in and of itself is incredibly mobile, right? That you can have families that live here that have trades and have sort of real deep roots of the community, but the production itself can go anywhere. We saw this in the 90s before I got here with tremendous amount of flight going to Vancouver, where people would basically, you'd go up to Vancouver and you would see it would basically be like a Los Angeles North, because there's certain hotels where you'd see everybody from all the different agencies and all the different studios would all be up there. And we saw that flight was possible. So then we saw different states inside the United States start competing with it. We had everything from Louisiana and Georgia and Michigan, New York, New Jersey, all these different states would come in and compete. And what they found was that, yeah, if you compete long enough and you put out there good incentives, productions will move. And what happens when productions move is that either they'll train up a local labor base, you'll bring in department heads to sort of like train a local labor base, but then the next generation of department heads was grown locally, not from Los Angeles. So all those amazing trades and craftsmen that we had here for generations in Los Angeles, we let leave, right? So I actually think it's a massive issue, right? We have communities that have been decimated by it. And it's not just that there are those communities that are doing those trades, but those provided really great jobs that sort of provide the middle-class backbone of what makes a great city. And now when I go to Georgia, where we shot Walking Dead, there's entire communities there of expats from Los Angeles. You go to Texas, you go to Michigan used to be, not so much anymore. You go to North Carolina or South Carolina. All these places, there's tons of people that used to live and work in LA and thought that LA was going to be their home forever. And now they find another place because there's a state-sponsored incentive for 30%, 40%, 25%. And that was something that we should have been matching up front. We should have not taken the pride, be like, oh no, people will never leave. If you can tell people they can work in Los Angeles, they would much prefer not to leave their house and go home and sleep in their own bed every night. The other side is it's really hard working in Los Angeles. I've shot in Los Angeles. It's really tough.
How so?
We don't make it easy. Permitting is hard. Transportation is hard. Everything is hard. Whereas you go to some of these other places, the governments are wooing you, trying to sort of bring production there. So they sort of open the doors. And so, I see it, in my neighborhood. Sometimes there'll be a shoot on my street, and some of the neighbors, even some of the neighbors that are in the business, are complaining. And I'm like, what are you doing? We have to make this work. Mm-hmm. Like, if someone's coming here and shooting here and they got the permit and they got everything, we need to roll out the red carpet for them. We need to make them feel welcome so they come back. because we need to build those communities. Anyway, this is something I feel incredibly strongly about, and I don't feel like there's been real leadership on this as long as I've been in Los Angeles.
I mean, in the, let's call it from 2012 to 2019, just before COVID, many of my clients were buying up studios. Studios became a sub-asset class that was just on fire, right? From Manhattan Beach Studios deal to Radcliffe to Amazon, or what was Sony Studios and then turned into Amazon, and Television City. You could go on and on and on. Many purchased by Hudson Pacific, others purchased by Hackman, and a few other companies. And now you read in the trades, which not Variety or Hollywood Reporter, but the real estate trades, BizNow, Real Deal, etc. Every day, it's a new announcement of a foreclosure or a note sale secured by studios, where lenders are taking back properties, the equity is wiped out, and lenders are hoping to get pennies on the dollar for their notes. How do we rectify this situation? Does it start with just government incentives?
That's not just an LA issue. The big thing that we saw was that when you transition from network TV to cable TV, we used to make in network television, so I'm talking about let's say 2010, even up until the early teens, you were making 24 episodes of a show. So if you got a show picked up at a network, you're making 22, 24, sometimes 26 episodes of that same show in one season, right? So your ability to utilize a studio from one show was huge. So there was a window where network TV was still going, still doing big orders, and then you had sort of the basic cable boom of the early teens, right? When that happened, you were seeing orders like Walking Dead. We were doing 16 episodes a season, and we were also doing it. There's tons of growth, right? So you went from, let's say, 200 shows being made over a year to we peaked at 600 shows a year. Now, there's two things that sort of contribute to the decline. One is the episode length went from 22 to 16 to now most shows that are being made 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 4 episodes, right? The number of episodes are shorter, so your utilization of a studio space goes through the floor. And we've hit peak, right? So peak happened sometime early 2020, 21, right? Around the COVID era when you had the start of the consolidation, the streaming wars were over, ZERP went away, right? So you end up in a place where we're going up from a peak of 600. We're dropping to 350, right? So you're seeing a massive decrease in the amount of commissioning that's being done. When that happens, you have lower orders, right? And fewer shows being made. People were justifying their valuations for property, being like, hey, I can utilize this studio as if it was 2019, and it's not.
So what's next? I mean, how do we recover from this? I mean, this is, I don't want to say an existential problem that we have in LA, but it is, I think, a contributing factor as to how we see LA today in 2026 is a lot what you were talking about with respect to the entertainment industry.
So there's two solves, I think, or two approaches. There's the industry-wide solve, and then there's the LA-specific solve. For LA-specific, we have to decide, are we the entertainment capital of the world or are we not? And I feel like right now, no one's saying, yes, we are.
But then, so going back to Victor's point, like who is championing that cause? It seems so diverse of an industry that there's no leader of the industry to talk to the mayor or the governor.
The idea that it has to be the heads of the biggest commissioners, right? And so if you have a combined Paramount, Warner Brothers, they're going to be a big commissioner, one of the biggest. Netflix is going to be one of the biggest. Amazon's one of the biggest, right?
Now, Netflix and Amazon, they're not LA companies, right?
Netflix production is an LA-based business.
Okay.
Right. So yes, some people say it's a tech business. Yes, there's definitely a complete tech side to that company. But if you look at their production commissioning, most of it's still done in Los Angeles, right? They have now stuff all over the world for foreign language stuff and all that, but they're still the executives that make the biggest decisions on what gets commissioned are here. So Ted Sarandos is here, right? So those people, if they want to take up that mantle, need to. And I think they do some of it, but it's not a coordinated effort to be like, hey, this is an LA thing we're going to be going to be driving it. And it needs to be hand in hand with the guilds. It needs to be hand in hand with the agencies and be like, hey, we're doing this. And I just don't know that there's a will to actually get that done.
So I guess one of my last questions is the number of platforms that someone can consume content. And we were just talking about, I guess more of a professional generated content, whether it's the Netflixes, the Amazons, et cetera. You've got YouTube, you've got TikTok. There's so much competition out there. What is it going to look like in the entertainment industry 5 years from now in terms of how many platforms we will be consuming content on? Is it going to be fewer, the same, or more?
The biggest mistake that Hollywood made was the debundling of the cable bundle. The cable bundle was the greatest single communal good that Hollywood had. And why I say that was, it was basically allowed people to share costs and risk across the entire industry. So you then had more than you needed, but you also didn't have to think about it. You had one cable bundle and it kind of gave you everything. And some people complain like, oh, I have 200 channels I don't watch, but there was a subgroup of people that watched one of those channels and they didn't have to sort of pay for it individually. Those channels are not able to survive individually outside the bundle, right? So then you get sort of these bigger platforms sort of gobbling them up, right? So Netflix, the Warner Brothers, Paramount, Discovery combination, they're going to now fight to sort of essentially recreate the cable bundle. And so the losing of that bundle really destroyed a tremendous amount of value. And you're going to see it with sports. I know you're a big sports fan, but individual sports rights, the value of those sports rights are just going to go through the roof. It's going to cost you more and more money to get those things. And so ultimately what you're going to have is people are going to recreate it through, there'll be 2 or 3 individual platforms that will win. The rest will exit the space, unfortunately, drive down volume and production, and they'll find a stable equilibrium. It's not a balance that I'm particularly excited about in that space, but I think there's an opportunity that if you have franchises from before, right? So speaking from my own book, is I think there's an opportunity to sort of maximize the returns that you get if you have franchises that are established before sort of future consolidation occurs.
I mean, even watching the playoffs, Maverick, my son, he'll get frustrated. He'll say, "Dad, what channel or what service is tonight's game on? Is it on Peacock? Is it on ESPN? Is it on Amazon? Is it on ABC? Is it on..." It's insane. It's crazy. And at some point you just get frustrated. Like, I can't even find the game that I want to watch because there's so many, it's on so many different platforms. The sports industries have sold almost in like micro units. How many parts can we divide up this pie to how many streamers are going to want a part of our product?
And I think ultimately it's self-defeating because I think that what's happening, you get people opting out, right? So there's going to be diehard fans that are going to continue to follow it. But I think, one, I look at the way my kids consume sports and their friends consume sports. It's mainly highlights.
Yeah. I
don't know many kids as when I grew up, everybody was sports mad. Even if you weren't into sports, you still knew you knew your local players, you knew your local teams, even if you weren't into it. Now people they'll watch a couple minutes of highlights. I'm like, yeah, I watched the game, and I'm like, that's not what I think of. So I think ultimately those people are going to be less connected to those sports, right? So I think the leagues are being penny wise and pound foolish. They're maximizing returns and revenue today, but I think ultimately it's going to be long-term value destructive.
All right, so final question.
Yes, sir.
I usually ask this question of my real estate clients and peers, but same goes to you as an entertainment executive. So you're talking to a 22-year-old who just graduated college. They want to be in the entertainment industry. Now, the industry, as we've talked about for the last 40 minutes, has changed significantly. So if David Alpert was 22 years old, again, or you're talking to someone who is now 22, and they want to be in the entertainment industry, what advice do you give them?
I would say if there's anything else that you can do that'll make you happy, do that.
Except being a lawyer, a real estate lawyer. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you were serious.
I'm 100% serious. But I felt that way 25 years ago, too. That was the advice I got. If you can do anything else that will make you happy, you should do it.
Why?
I think that so-called glamour professions are not you have to, especially as a young person, you aren't compensated at the level you should be for the amount of effort that comes out, because so many people, the demand for those jobs want to be in the business. So I think in general, it's much more lucrative to have become an attorney. It's much more lucrative to become a banker or consultant or any of the other professional trades that you could pursue. So, and they're much more stable, right? And so even you look at all the disruption that's going on in your field now
with
AI and sort of with the real estate business writ large, it's not nothing, but it's massively more disrupted inside the creative fields. The other thing you have to realize is that people need legal advice, people need medical advice, people need financial advice. You don't need entertainment quite the same way. And sometimes if you don't have the money, you might watch a cat video, and that might give you the same level of entertainment you need. I don't think it delivers the same value, but the alternative to entertainment product can be nothing.
Depends how good that cat video is.
There's some good ones.
David, I appreciate you coming on. Wishing you and Skybound nothing but success with Invincible and your other IP products. And I know that my audience will learn something about you, the business, and how it relates to the real estate industry, specifically in LA.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I feel connected, and that's what it's all about.
I love it. And that is another episode of the Kirsh Connection.